Welcome to video number 2 in PHP introduction. Now this video is going to be all about introductory of PHP, and we're just going to have a general chat as to what is important to know of PHP. Now PHP in essence is basically a programming language, of course, but it's not just any programming language, right? It's a specific programming language that we use for certain things. Now, you would know that PHP are used to actually, manage and create object-based stuff. How can I say stuff in essence? And I'm using the word stuff because we'll get into more details in the following videos exactly what that quotation mark stuff is all about. So it's an object-based programming language. And the thing about PHP is that it uses certain coding, certain algorithms to actually create content, dynamic content on a website. Now, PHP is an acronym for PHP Hypertext Preprocessor. Okay. Now, PHP is widely used as an open scripting language. Now, when we say open source scripting language, there's a couple of things in play in mind. And as I said in the previous video, and we're going to chat about it and we're going to understand that in the following videos. Now, PHP scripts are executed on the server. Now, the important thing about this point, PHP scripts are executed on the server, and not, that's what the mistake of a lot of people in the beginning, the mistake they make is that they think that, okay, well, I'm going to start using PHP, but they don't grasp the fact that PHP is it's a dynamic source. It's a dynamic website that you're busy creating. And when we talk about dynamic, we're talking about, content that gets pulled from certain source, like for instance MySQL, which is a database source, and then gets populated into the website. And once we do that kind of stuff, we start using dynamic content. Now, for dynamic content to actually work, you need a couple of things. Now, the first thing you need is a server. That's correct. Now, a server, in essence, is something, and the definition of a server is basically something that actually acts like the source and manages your web pages. Now, a lot of people know that you can get something like GoDaddy or something like that can actually act like a server. Now, that is great for if you in production phase of your website. You are launching your site for your client. It's great to use something like GoDaddy or any kind of hosting services. But getting back to the point where PHP is dynamic, you as a developer need a platform where you can actually do your testing and your developing. Now, for that to actually happen, you need something like a local host, and we'll get into more detail into what is local host and how you can use it. You can either use stuff like XAMPP, Apache, or you can use IIS, which I highly recommend. And that's the thing, though, is that you need to understand this kind of stuff. So, PHP costs nothing, right? It is free to download and use. Now, as I said in the previous video, yeah, it's free and it's great, but where the money actually goes is in the development. And because you are teaching yourself, or you're learning to use PHP, you're in the right track. Now, PHP in essence is open source. It's free. It's not like ASP. So you don't need to pay anything to actually use it or to develop in it. Now, PHP files can contain a couple of things, right? Because you've got a basic background of HTML and CSS and even JavaScript, the PHP files can have a combination of HTML, cascading style sheets, and JavaScript. And then, of course, PHP code. So it's not like ASP.NET where you've got your own variables, you've got your own tags, and you've got, everything is tailor-made kind of thing. With PHP, you can just basically integrate what you have, into a PHP site. Now, PHP code are executed on the server, like I said, and the thing about that is the result of what gets executed gets displayed as plain HTML. Not the same with ASP. ASP is quite a bit different. Now, the thing about how you can define how a PHP file looks like, you will always have a .php file extension, and as we continue in the videos, I will show you a couple of examples of that. Now, what can PHP do for us? I mean, that's the one thing. I mean, you starting this videos, I mean, somewhere down the line, you kind of got interest in what is PHP, and you've seen that people are using PHP. Now we want to try and unravel what can it actually do for us? I mean, maybe you are a business owner and you want to kind of understand this, and understanding what this can actually do for you. Now, PHP can generate dynamic pages and content, like I said in the previous, not previous, it was actually this video, and PHP can actually create, open, read, and write, as well as close on the server with relevant permission. Now, PHP can collect form data. It can also send and receive cookies, which is not really used that much though, but it's important to understand and know that as well. Now, PHP can add, delete, and modify data on your database. With not only just, it's a broad perspective say that PHP can do that though, but you got to understand that we integrate MySQL or we integrate T-SQL into PHP, which can actually add, modify, and delete our relevant database files. Now, PHP can restrict users to access some pages on your website, which is great, and that's actually what we're going to have a look at as well. And a great example of a great PHP site originally, and that's what a lot of people don't know, is Facebook. Facebook originally started out with PHP. They still use PHP, but they use a programming language called Objective-C to actually create the content on the website. So it's a bit more complicated than just using PHP. Now, PHP can encrypt data, and we're also going to have a look at that, especially when you create, let's say you create a website, a restaurant website where you want to add and delete users onto your portal. You want to make sure that the password that the user creates is encrypted, right? Because you want to avoid that. So the next thing is, why PHP? I mean, we know now that what can it do, but why PHP? Why not ASP? Now, PHP runs on various platforms, right? It runs on Windows, Linux, Unix, Macs, and it goes on and on and on. I mean, now when we say run, we mean the server, right? The server runs on this, and that. Now, PHP is compatible with almost all servers that uses Apache, IIS, and so forth. Now, we're going to, in this examples, we're going to use IIS. Now, PHP supports a wide range of databases, and that is important though, because you're not only going to, in the future, going to use MySQL, you're going to maybe use a couple more. PHP, of course, is free, and you can actually download the PHP source files at php.net. The last thing is, PHP is easy to learn and runs efficiently on the server side. Now, when we say easy to learn, that's the basic terms. PHP can get very complicated, and I recommend that you actually stick with it. And if you don't understand something, go through the video again and again and again and read up on your own time as well. That is quite important, and that's one of the most things that saved my ass when I learned PHP. So it is important to know that PHP is free. PHP can work on most servers. It's very easy to actually set up and work, and is easy to learn. It's easy to learn and grasp, however, it can get complicated. This was video 2, Introduction to PHP.